this is the second mini lecture for section 6.2 of the textbook. So now let's practice doing addition with the number line. Okay, so here we're given 5 6 plus 3/4. The least common denominator is 12, so we'll use 12ths. You kind of have to find the common denominator for these two fractions before you draw this picture. So it's a little bit different from the other ones. So if I want to rewrite this sum, let's write it up here. This is going to be 10/12 plus 9/12. So I need 10/12 plus 9/12, which will be 19/12, which is a little bit less than 2. So my number line will go out to 2. And I'm going to divide each of these into 12 equal parts. And I make that easy on myself by quartering them, and then I cut the quarters into thirds, so that it's nice and evenly spaced. And then we have 10/12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in other words, 5/6. And then 9/12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or in other words, 3/4. And the answer I end up with is 19/12. Or if I want to write that as a mixed number, that would be 1 and 7/12. Okay, so now let's talk about subtraction. Subtraction is a fill-in-the-blank addition problem, just like with whole numbers or integers. But yeah, of course I can do this through takeaway, and that's how colored regions work. So let's use colored regions to illustrate this difference, 5/8 minus 1/4. And let's see, why don't we use squares for this? Yeah, I need a shape that's going to work well for both eighths and quarters. And on the last homework we saw this kind of thing done with squares. And I can divide this square up into eighths by drawing the diagonals and the vertical and horizontal halfway lines. That's 8 equal parts. Now shade in 5 of those. And I want to take away 1/4. Let me draw 1/4 on its own. The book doesn't always do this, but I think it's helpful here. I'd like to do this in such a way that I can see really clearly what I'm going to be taking away. And I think I'll cut it into quarters using diagonals. And here's 1/4. And see, I'm shading a quarter so that it overlaps with part of this shaded region. So I can see when I take away the quarter, I'm going to be taking away those two parts. Okay, so the final answer needs to be broken up into eighths. See that 1/4. I didn't actually say this yet, did I? But it's 2/8. That's how I'm doing this. See, if I want to see that on this picture, yeah, I can just use dotted lines to divide each of the quarters in half. And so you see there's 2/8 being taken away. And what's left, well, I just shade in what would be left in this picture, which is this part, and this part. So we've got our 5/8, and then we have our 1/4, which is 2/8, and then what's left over is 3/8. Okay, well, let's do subtraction with fraction strips. 4/5 minus 1/3. Okay, so yeah, as usual, it's really important that you try to make the strips exactly the same length, or else you're not really illustrating anything. And the textbook just lines up the strips for subtraction. So I'll do that too. I'll go ahead and draw both of the strips, one above the other, so that I've got it really clearly lined up. And then let's also draw the strip for the answer. Okay, so now we're ready to fill it in. 4/5. I need to divide this guy into 5 equal parts. That's usually a little bit harder, but we'll do our best. Something like this, I think. Alright, and then let's see, let's do the 1/3. Looks something like that, I think. Okay, so I'm going to be taking this amount away from this amount. Now here's where we need to think about how to work through this. Okay, 4/5 is what? 12/15. And I can see that by dividing each of the fifths up into 3 equal parts. So that I end up with 15 total. And then the 1/3 is 5/15. So, I divide each of these thirds into 5 equal parts. So I've got 12 and I'm taking away 5. That means 7 is going to be left over. So I'll draw the answer, using 15ths To make it easy to divide it up, I'll divide it into thirds first, and then I'll divide each of those into 5 equal parts. And we're just going to have 12 minus 5 of those parts, which is 7. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you could count them up here, see these line up right here. So if I take this away from this, what's left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7 down here. Okay, so now let's use a number line to illustrate the difference. Negative 5/4 minus negative 1/3. Okay, and using common denominators, we would have, let's see, negative 15/12 minus negative 4/12. So essentially we're going to be doing negative 15 minus negative 4, but it's 12th rather than units. Okay, so I need to divide each of these units up into 12 equal parts. And then let's see, negative 15/12 will look like that, or in other words, that's negative 5/4. And then I'm subtracting negative 4/12, so that means I have to count back up 4 of those parts. And let's see, that's our negative 1/3. And then the answer that we get is negative 11/12. Okay, here's the homework. Pay special attention to the word problems, because we will talk about those quite a bit in class. But also pay special attention to all of the picture drawing and how to interpret the pictures.